Madam Speaker, I rise in support of H.R. 3016, the IGO Anti-Boycott Act, a bill I introduced with my colleague and great friend from New Jersey, Congressman Josh Gottheimer, this past spring. After Hamas's October 7th massacre of over 1,200 innocent people in Israel, including Americans, we need to do everything we can to stand with our friend and ally. In the South, Israel is fighting a war to dismantle Hamas, whose leader said October 7th was just a rehearsal. In the North, Israel is defending itself from missiles and rockets from Iran's deadly proxy, Hezbollah. And yet, there are many in the world who want to fault Israel, blame Israel, and delegitimize Israel for doing what is necessary to protect its citizens and its sovereignty. One of the most egregious bastions of anti-Israel bias and bigotry is the United Nations. And we are deeply concerned that the UN could weaponize its institutions against Israel. Years ago, the UN Human Rights Council authorized the creation of a database of companies doing business, quote, beyond Israel's 1949 armistice lines. The implications of this were clear. Create a list of companies and then boycott them. And that list is now published and updated by the United Nations. Boycotts such as these are contrary to American values and foreign policy. It is critical that we protect U.S. companies from being coerced into providing information that would facilitate these boycotts. For over 40 years, it has been illegal for U.S. companies to cooperate with foreign boycotts that the United States is not participating in. The reason? Foreign countries should not be able to use U.S. companies to undermine U.S. foreign policy. These laws were passed in response to the Arab League's boycott of Israel. Now, the good news is that today, many fewer countries in the Arab League are adhering to the boycott of Israel. In fact, some of them have normalized relations with Israel, opening trade as well as diplomatic ties. But we are faced with the potential that U.S. companies might be pressured to cooperate with this UN list and a subsequent boycott of Israel. If that were to happen, the UN would be using U.S. companies to undermine U.S. foreign policy, and that is simply unacceptable. This bill adds 4 words, quote, or international governmental organizations, end quote, to existing anti-boycott law to include organizations like the UN. It is my sincere hope that the UN will not foster such a boycott against Israel, as Israel is responding to the deadliest attack on Jews since the Holocaust. And this bill is especially necessary with the constant anti-Israel bias emanating from the UN. Just recently, we confirmed that UNRWA, the UN Relief and Works Agency for Palestinian Refugees, has deep ties to Hamas in the Gaza Strip. Israeli intelligence recently released reports that many UNRWA workers actually worked as Hamas operatives and assisted in the October 7th attacks. It is absolutely disgusting that UN employees of a UN agency had a role in this attack. We'll see now what the UN does in response to these allegations. We cannot stand idly by while our contributions to UNRWA potentially aid and abet terrorists. Our support must only go to organizations that uplift humanity, not those that undermine peace and security. And so I urge my colleagues to join me in voting for this bill today so that we can take a stand against the UN and other IGOs and the anti-Israel bias present at UNHRC and UNRWA. This bill is just a start. The American people stand with Israel. I reserve the balance of my time.